Hello and welcome to this edition of Who Knows Best. So today is the second Sunday of Easter, also known as Divine Mercy Sunday in the Roman Catholic Church. So I have a couple of videos I want you to watch first to kind of set me up for what we're about to watch. And what I love about them, one is a witness statement from Thomas, and I just want you to hear that. It's an interesting take, and I think it kind of sets up for what I want to say to you today. So here are the videos I want you to watch. God bless.
A world consumed with compromise and chaos. We are inescapably surrounded by sin from the moment we enter. Lost and hopeless, bound by chains of despair, shame and fear. We are all captive to the corruption of a fallen world. Broken, in need of restoration. Lost, in need of rescue. Left to ourselves, we are frail and desperate for God's forgiveness and compassion. God knew this would be the outcome of living in a sin-bent world, so he planned the greatest rescue mission long before we took our first breath. A mission of mercy, a display of his great love demonstrated at the cross. Jesus meets us in the mess of our humanity with his marvelous mercy. He finds us in the rubble of our ruins and loves us too much to leave us there. He sees the pains of life that grapple to consume us. Sin and shame created to destroy his perfect plan. But our God pulls us from the pit and sets our feet upon a rock. He casts our sins into an endless sea of forgiveness. He gives us more than we deserve, an abundant life filled with purpose and everyday new mercies. Not because of anything we do, but because of who he is, a loving, gracious, compassionate God, whose mercy is from everlasting to everlasting.
I remember the first time somebody called me a disciple of Jesus. Yeah, disciple. Had a nice ring to it. It felt strong. You realized you were a part of something much bigger than yourself. Sometimes it was really, really tough. See, I can't begin to describe just how disorienting things were back then. I mean, one minute Jesus is telling you about the gift of life, and the next minute it seems like he's just going to let us drown in the middle of the sea. Spoiler alert, we didn't drown. It sure seemed like we were going to. Looking back on it, I realized that Jesus didn't waste a moment. I mean, he was always showing us that he was who he said he was. Which, I know, begs the question, how can we doubt him? Yeah, I tend to be the one that gets asked that more than anybody because for some reason, doubter has been connected with my name. For the record, I wasn't the only one who doubted. It's just, I wasn't there the day that Jesus appeared to everyone else. I was gone. And so I didn't, look, the finality of death, it has a choking grip on all of us. And on that day that Jesus was crucified, when death swallowed him up, and then there was the day that they showed me his hands and the scars. And he said, Thomas, you believe because you see. But there's going to be people who believe who don't see. And that night, changed everything. I mean, I was still a disciple, but now I was an apostle, sent to share the good news, to tell a story. You know, there's another word. Started with a few of us, began to spread. I think it's the best word of all. It says everything that needs to be said, because we realize it wasn't about how well we believed. It was about who we believed in. Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Yeah, from that moment on, we were called believers.
So if you're like me, I love that video. It gives a nice testimony to Thomas, and I think it kind of I can relate to it. I can relate to Thomas in that. It gives a different viewpoint, a different perspective. But anyway, I digress. Today in the Roman Catholic Church is what we call Divine Mercy Sunday. And I want to talk to you about something very simple, very powerful. These three words. Jesus, I trust in you. Okay, 5 words. Well, with a comma, 6. So, Jesus, I trust in you. Now, I feel like a lot of people, you may have heard that phrase before. Maybe you've seen it on a poster. You're walking into a church. You see Jesus with his heart pouring out these rays. And right at the bottom, Jesus, I trust in you. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But the question some people, you look at this poster, you look at the picture, you see these words. Is it just another devotion? Is it another prayer, another novena? Or is something deeper going on with these words? Jesus, I trust in you. Brothers and sisters, divine mercy is not complicated at all. It's not theological jargon. It's not something only reserved for the saints. It's this: the knowledge that God loves us and he meets us at our worst. Not when we have everything together, or not only when we have everything together, not when life is running smoothly, but when things are falling apart. And again, if you're like me, those are the times we really pour out our prayers, the times we really need to trust him and we turn to God. Back in the 1930s, there was a nun. Her name was Sister Faustina. She was a Polish nun. And Jesus, according to the situation, Jesus gave her a very simple message. Trust in me. That's it. Trust in me. Receive my mercy. And show that mercy to others. That's it. Again, like I said, no theological jargon, no complexity, just trust. And on this Sunday, Divine Mercy Sunday, in many churches around the country, around the world, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll see this confession being offered for the most part. There's the Eucharist being offered. It's a Sunday. There's adoration at 3 o'clock usually. And there's the Divine Mercy Chaplet. Maybe during adoration, you might hear it said, or before Mass or daily Mass or after Mass. You hear the Rosary, but you also hear the Divine Mercy Chaplet. It's almost like saying today in the church, today mercy is wide open. That's what the church is saying. It's reminding us that mercy is wide open. And not because we deserve it, but because God wants to give it to us. And what's interesting? And we hear today's gospel. The disciples are hiding, right? Doors are locked. And they're afraid. They've lost control of everything. And what happens when they're afraid? They're in the midst of that locked room. What happens? Jesus walks right in. right through a locked door, right through a wall. However he did it, I don't know. But Jesus walks right in their midst. And what does he say? He says, peace be with you. He doesn't yell at them. He doesn't remonstrate them. He doesn't, put them down or scold them or shame them for what they were feeling or what they were thinking. Instead, what does he do? He shows them his wounds. That's mercy. Where he could have done all of the above, and yet he didn't. He said, peace be with you. Brothers, sisters, he loves us. He loves you. He loves me. He loves them. Even in the midst of their worst moments, their worst doubts. These were the ones who followed Jesus. They saw him raise Lazarus from the dead. They saw all these things. They were part of all these things. And yet Jesus meets them right there in their midst and says, peace be with you, even though it seems like they've forgotten everything. Thomas wasn't there when Jesus first came. And when he hears about it, you could only imagine, his feeling. He says, I need to see it. And I don't know how Thomas said this, but, you got all of the other apostles saying it happened. You got the disciples saying it happened. And Thomas says, I need proof. He doesn't say, I don't believe you. He just says, I need proof. And who can blame him? And what happens? Jesus comes back. Jesus comes back again, and he meets Thomas right in the midst of his doubt. And what does he say? Peace be with you. He says, Thomas, come here. It's amazing where Jesus meets us. I think if we're honest, many of us are like Thomas. Sometimes it's hard to believe. Sometimes in the midst of everything going on in our life, brothers and sisters, we want control. We want certainty. We want to know, and who doesn't? We want to know that everything's going to be okay. But does life really work that way? Doesn't seem like it. But you know what? I want to tell you a situation that happened to me. Something I still can't explain to this day, honestly. But my friend Dave and I, best friend Dave, college mates, we decided to travel the country. And my friend Dave and I were driving through the desert. And we're on our way from Yellowstone to San Francisco. And I remember as we were driving through the hills of Yellowstone, I heard this noise in the back of the car. And I just thought it was the Yellowstone roads or something like that. And we were in a rental car. So, who really cared, But I hate to say that. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. But anyway, but we're driving now. We're out of Yellowstone. We're driving through this part of a desert. I forget what road we're on, but as we're driving, we're stuck behind this big truck. And be honest, who wants to be stuck behind a truck for miles and miles and miles? He was going fast enough. He was going in the 70s, but as were we. But we were right there. And it's one lane that way, one lane this way. And Dave decides he's going to go around the truck. And I was all for it. I don't want to be stuck behind the truck either. And as we go to go around, there's no traffic. But way off in the distance, way off, you can see there's this big truck coming towards us. There's a big truck here, big truck coming towards us, like miles away, to be honest with you. And so what do? We pass. We go to pass it. And as we're passing, I look over at the speedometer because, you're going 75. You got to go pretty fast to get in front of the truck, right? Dave was going over 90 miles an hour to go past this truck. I think it was up to 95. And as we pass the truck, and as Dave's coming back into the lane, we hear a sound. Boom! Oh, but it didn't scare you. We hear a sound because it scared me at the time. But at first, I heard a rubbing noise again in the back before the boom. And what did we do? We put the music up. I think we were listening to Neil Young or something. And we put the music up and we just went our merry way and figured, look, when we get to the next town, we'll look and see what it is. Maybe a stick got caught, whatever. Boom, it happens, right? Just as we're coming back in the lane. And what happens is that the car now turns to the side, right? And what's interesting is on the outside of the car, things are going in slow motion. And anyone who's been in a car accident and survived could probably tell you the same thing. It seems like everything's in slow motion sometimes. And as the car turns sideways, right? And in that moment, my hands go up on the dashboard and my pinky gets caught. We had rosary beads hanging from the mirror, for our travels, because we said the rosary along the way. And my pinky grabs the rosary and kind of yanks it, I guess, off of the mirror. And the rosary, sorry for itchy nose, the rosary gets caught in my hand, but my hand gets pushed onto the dashboard because I think to myself, this is it. Because as I look out that window, that truck that was far away is right there almost. You look out that window, the truck that was far away is definitely right there. And according to the law of physics, something should have happened that didn't happen. You see, the car, as it turned to the side, okay, now normally what should have happened, centrifugal force would have taken the car and made it tumble, okay? That didn't happen. The car didn't tumble. But, as the car turns, and I know my hand got caught on the rosary beads, and my hands were up against the dashboard, and I know I felt the cross in my hands because it hurt, because I was pressing that tight. I remember, like I said, outside the car, things slowed down, but inside the car, very weird. I had a chance to say an entire Hail Mary. And I remember as I'm doing this and I'm saying the Hail Mary prayer, I'm thinking to myself, gee, I don't have time to do an act of contrition. It's the act of contrition is long. So I just say these words. Jesus, I trust in you. Because that's all I could do at that moment. Jesus, I trust in you. Because as the car turned and the rosary beads stuck into my hand, and the car I thought was about to start flipping or something, it didn't. It stopped. And somehow, when it stopped, it went in reverse and backed into a ditch. And we didn't know what happened. I'm thinking Dave somehow, maybe whatever he did, he put it in reverse and we wound up. He didn't. We looked at the gear shift. It was still in drive. Shouldn't have happened. And the two trucks that would have hit us or should have hit us thought we were dead. We thought we were dead. We thought we were ghosts. We looked at each other. Is this real? We get out of the car. We come to the back. We look for the damage. What did we see? One blown tire. That was it. Somehow something happened. Something I can't explain. Like I said, they thought we were dead. I thought we were dead. And I turned to David. I said, Dave, how'd you do that? And he just said that wasn't me. One of the drivers, they helped us get the car out of the ditch. And with colorful language, the one guy said, look, dude, your hand is bleeding. And it was because the rosary had, the cross of the rosary had stuck firmly into my hand. I never even noticed it, and the rosary that really should have snapped when I pulled on it was whole. Now I know, as I'm telling you the story, I know if I were hearing the story, I'd say, dude, you expect me to believe that? You know what? I don't care. I really don't. I'm sharing this with you because it happened. That's it. I win nothing. I lose nothing. It happened. And, you want to come up with some kind of scientific reason why. Sure, dude, whatever you want to do. I just know it happened, and I need to share it sometimes, because just when I was losing control, because I had no control, because as the car was turning, I saw the truck coming at me. I just thought, like I said, I thought I was dead. I found out later on, Dave just thought, oh, Joe's going to die first. Thanks, pal. And you know what? I know what happened. Dave knows what happened. And those two truck drivers know what happened. But I tell you this, in that moment, like I said, I had no control, none. But what did I have? I had trust. I had trust in God. Again, not that everything was going to be all right. I still thought I was going to die. I just wanted to make sure that I was meeting Jesus at the pearly gates. Jesus, I trust in you. Maybe that's what divine mercy really is. It's about trusting in the mercy and the redemption that Jesus Christ gives us, the mercy and the love that God has for each and every single one of us. So, wherever you are right now in your life, maybe whatever you're carrying, maybe it's a heavy load. Maybe your life feels out of control. Just say this with me. Let's say this prayer. Jesus, I trust in you. That's it. Jesus, I trust in you. That's it. Not perfection. We don't have all the answers, but we do have trust. And remember what Jesus said today in the Gospel to Thomas? Blessed are those who have seen, or have not seen, sorry. Blessed are those who have not seen and still believe. That's us. Maybe that's what this is all about. Trust. Jesus, I trust in you. Brothers, sisters, I want to wish you a blessed Divine Mercy Sunday. Enjoy the day, and God bless.
It's hard to be judged for one mistake, but it's what I'll be remembered for, I guess. I wasn't always the doubter. That's not who I am. I have a zeal for Jesus. I always have. When Lazarus died, no one wanted to return to Bethany with Jesus. The atmosphere there was volatile and dangerous. Jesus said he'd show us his glory. I assumed we'd all die there. Still, I'm the one who said, let's go. But then came this room. That night. At the time, none of us understood as we sat at that table. This is my body? This is my blood? He raised the dead. He cast out demons even. What could he possibly mean? I didn't doubt it when they told me he was dead. But how can you not doubt someone coming back to life? Some didn't doubt. But for me, it was harder. Maybe it was just that I didn't want to be disappointed. Many came after me who believed without seeing what I saw. Jesus called them blessed. Yes, I touched the place of the nails, the hole in his side. Such definitive proof that I cried out, "My Lord, my God!" But that wasn't the only amazing thing. The Almighty One, He came back for me. He didn't want to leave me behind in my doubt. He says, I'm worth that. And I'll follow Him anywhere for the rest of my life.